Welcome to the Business of Architecture Photography Q&A. This one, episode number 2. Before we get into this round of questions, if you have one that you'd like me to address in a future video, feel free to leave it in the comments of this one below and start it off with the words business question. All right, let's get into it. Question number 1. Actually, we're going to kind of combine a couple questions here, but the first one comes from Justin Martin. Says, what was your process for transitioning from real estate photography to architecture photography? What strategies worked for you, or what strategies worked as you worked to change your client base? And I'm going to tie this in to the second question here from, looks like Darian Oliphant. And his question is, what are some mistakes you made when you were transitioning from real estate to architecture? Can you tell me a little bit more about why you made the decision and how you started marketing to non-real estate clients? Okay, so first I'm going to address the why. Why did I personally start to veer out of shooting real estate into work for more designers, custom home builders, and remodeling companies? First, I'll get into the why. I really wanted to take my time with shooting some of these amazing spaces. You might walk into the most beautiful house you've ever seen, but unfortunately, when you shoot for realtors and real estate agents, you might have 2 hours, an hour, maybe only 45 minutes sometimes just to shoot this gigantic, beautiful property. And man, had I had 20 minutes, additional minutes just to set aside for this one amazing shot of the kitchen, it'd be a portfolio image. Real estate is very quick. You're in and out. It's kind of a churn and burn type of business. And that wasn't necessarily for me. I know a good handful of photographers personally here in Kansas City that do that, and they kill it. They do an absolutely amazing job. They have teams of people. I think one of them still is just a sole proprietor working by himself, and he does an amazing job. But on top of that, the questions we're asking, what strategies worked and what mistakes did I make? Now, I'm going to be perfectly frank with you. I did a deep dive into this on the sales and marketing video that is in the Business of Architecture Photography video series that I did with Mike Kelly. But I think a great piece of advice I could give is whatever type of properties you have access to, use those to leverage the images that you create from there to get in front of other clients. So let's say you're shooting a property and for real estate, it's for a listing, and you start talking with either the homeowner or the real estate agent, and you find out that this house is done, maybe it's a fairly recent build, but it's done by XYZ builders. Well, maybe you know that you could, if you just take a little bit extra time to really make that kitchen shot amazing, or the living room, make that shot amazing, use that as leverage to get in front of XYZ home builders. Maybe there's some way to get in front of them and set up some kind of test drive or trial shoot, just something along those lines. But again, leverage the type of properties that you already have access to and use those images as a way to possibly transition your business from one type of clientele to another. And as far as mistakes go, I would say the biggest one had to do with pricing. I had no idea how to structure my pricing when it came to, in one instance, I had my real estate pricing down, but then when I did get a job, when XYZ builders did hire me for something, and they said, hey, we want you to photograph this house and we want roughly 20 images, how much do you charge? I didn't know what to do. And again, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to promote the Business of Architecture Photography video series, where Mike Kelly and myself do an in-depth discussion on pricing your work. But much like I mentioned in video number 1 of the Q&A, do not price your work for builders, architects, remodeling companies, designers. Don't base it in any way, shape, or form on how you possibly price your pricing structure for real estate. It is a completely different beast. And to get a little bit deeper into one of the questions that was asked, I would also say, do not drop emails that are 5 paragraphs long explaining why you're such a great photographer and why XYZ builders should hire you. They're never going to read it. If you are going to use email, make your emails short and sweet and give them a reason. Give your contact at XYZ builders a reason to open and read that email. One of the best pieces of advice I ever got from a manager at one of my past regular 9-to-5 jobs was, you have to put yourself in the shoes or in the position of the people you're reaching out to. You have to ask yourself, what's in it for me? So the people you're reaching out to, if I'm reaching out to XYZ home builders, what's in it for them to hire me as their photographer? Or at the very least, what's in it for them to hire me for just kind of a trial and error, a test drive photo shoot? What's in it for them? Do not use your initial reach out to talk about how great you are and how great your photography is. They don't care. What they care about is what you can do for their business. Okay, next question. This comes from Rob McDonald. It says, do you need a property, and I would assume model releases? Do you need property and model releases in order to own copyright with the right to sell and distribute for commercial licensing? Since we are talking about the subject, I want to play it safe and let you know I'm not an attorney. Although we are discussing copyright, nothing I'm saying is legal advice. This is just advice from a freelance photographer. From my knowledge, and I'm 99.9999% sure of all this, if you are in the United States, and I'm going to assume this applies to a lot of other countries around the world, the moment you click the shutter, you own the copyright to that image. In most instances, it does not matter who or what appears in the image. If you took the photo, you own the copyright. Now, when it comes with the right to sell and distribute for commercial licensing, I would actually point you in the direction of an expert on this. I'm going to point you in the direction of an article that was on AP Almanac written by Leslie Burns. I'll put a link to it in the description. In it, she discusses property releases. I believe, as I scroll through this, let me see, I think she talks about model releases as well. Yeah, she does. And I'm going to quote directly from the paragraph where she mentions this. She says, homeowners too, keep this in mind, homeowners too have few rights that would restrict the use of your photos, especially if they had approved you being on their property to make the photographs. That is assuming that they don't appear in the works, by the way. And if they do, yes, get model releases signed. Leslie does a fantastic deep dive into this subject. I see this question pop up a lot in forums and Facebook groups, but they will ask, if I photograph a residential property, do I have to get some sort of property release form from the homeowner in order to do anything with the images? And the short answer is no. As long as you had permission to be on the property, yeah, you're in the clear. But again, as Leslie mentions, if somebody's face or someone's likeness appears in the photo, yeah, there's a good chance you're probably going to need a model release form. All right, question number 3 comes from Chris Restrepo. Chris, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right. His question is, how do you interact with new clients? If someone reaches out to you asking for information, do you have a set of saved templated emails that you use? Do you prefer to just talk on the phone with them? I feel like I am currently spending an excessive amount of time typing out long replies to email inquiries that are providing similar information, and I'm looking to streamline the process. Similar to what I said before, if you are going to reply to someone in an email, even if they are initially asking you for some kind of information, don't write a book back. Make it short and sweet. Mike and I even touch on this in the video series. I believe it's in the sales and marketing video, but my advice is, and I think Mike agreed on this too, whatever form of communication that someone is reaching out to you, reply in the same manner. If someone calls your phone and leaves a voicemail, yes, use that as an opportunity to call them back. If someone emails you asking for information, reply back in an email. If someone sends you a message over a DM on some sort of social media platform, I would initially respond back on that same social media platform. But I would say this, if they are inquiring something about you and your business, most of the time it's pricing. So if someone's reaching out to you, inquiring about what your prices are, they are not reaching out completely cold. They have done research on you. They know what you look like. They probably know what you sound like. They clearly know your portfolio of work. That's why they're reaching out to you in the first place. So that being said, do not reply back with a book or a multi-paragraph short story as to why they should hire you. They're already semi-convinced of that. That's why they reached out in the first place. I would almost liken this to dating, or at least the stages where you're initially getting to know someone. If you meet someone for the first time and they want to get to know a little bit about you, this is not the opportunity to data dump and give them your whole life story. That's probably going to turn them off, and they're going to want to go talk to somebody else. And even though in reality, yes, we are in this to make money, you cannot act desperate for work, even if you are. In a way, you have to act as if this project that they're inquiring about and you could take it or leave it. But to sum this question up, if someone's inquiring something about you, and I would venture to say most of it is related to pricing, give them the information on your pricing. I could keep going on the subject. In fact, I do, Mike, and I do. Again, I'm going to keep promoting the Business of Architecture Photography video series. If you are completely unfamiliar with what it is, it's another link I'll put in the description. Mike McKelly and myself, we do a deep dive into sales and marketing, copyright, licensing, pricing, what to do if and when one of your videos or photos goes viral. When it comes to the business side of running an architecture photography business, again, we don't cover everything, but Mike Kelly and I, we cover a lot. All right, next question. This one comes from Alex. And Alex asks, as an established architectural photographer, what is the best marketing strategy? As Mike Kelly would ask, how long is a piece of string? Not necessarily the specific actions, but more along the lines of what is your approach to keeping your name out there in order to keep your brand in front of existing clients while also attracting new clients? I love this question. This is a question I rarely see asked. Most questions around sales and marketing are along the lines of getting new clients, but here Alex is asking, what do you do to keep your name out there in front of existing clients while, yes, kind of almost sub note, while also attracting new ones? Here's my bit of advice around this. You have to pretend as if you and your competition in your area, your quality of work is the same across the board. Yeah, there's going to be variances in style, but let's imagine you and your competition, everybody's a 10. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. The question you have to ask yourself is what makes you different than the rest of your competition, and play to those strengths. In my opinion, that is the best marketing strategy, because at the end of the day, people are hiring you, and the benefit of hiring you is, yes, you do create great images. But I think what Alex is asking here has to do more about branding. When it comes to marketing and advertising, everything boils down to just two things. You either make somebody do something or you make somebody believe something. Advertising will either encourage you to do some sort of call to action, click now, buy now, call within whatever amount of time. That's advertising that's making you do something. In our line of work, that doesn't really work. We can incentivize current or brand new clients as much as we want, but if they don't have anything to shoot, we're not going to land a job. So as architectural photographers, a lot of our sales and marketing has to do with the branding side or making people believe something. First and foremost, yes, when it comes to your branding, you have to let everyone know you make killer photographs. You make your clients' work look amazing. But I think just under that, like priority number 2 is your reputation of how easy you are to work with. And being easy to work with does not mean being the cheapest photographer or giving away all the rights to your photos. Far from it. Well-established professionals don't do it, and neither should you. All things being equal, do a self-examination of what makes you different from your competition and go with it. Okay, last question. Looks like this one comes from Alexi. I apologize, Alexi. I'm not going to even try to pronounce your last name. I would just butcher it, but I'll call you Alexi K. Says, I'm just starting out in architecture photography and videography and have also recently moved to a new island in Europe where most, if not all, architects, property developers, they use computer renditions of their projects. They haven't shown an interest in using real photographs or videos to showcase their projects when I have contacted them. Have you had to deal with anything similar or have any suggestions? This is a tough one. You cannot make anybody purchase a product or service out of a sense of urgency if they don't feel a sense of urgency to begin with. I think this is another case where an email talking about how great your photographs are, I don't think it's going to do a whole lot of good. If I was in your shoes, to be perfectly frank, what I would do is I would reach out to some of these clients that you eventually want to work for, maybe see if you can set up some sort of test drive photo shoot, kind of a trial run thing. You might have to do something for next to nothing or free initially, just so you can prove yourself to these companies, show them what your skills as a photographer can do for their work. And yeah, I've run into situations like this quite a bit, maybe not to the scale where everyone in my area just doesn't use photography per se, but let's pretend I am the greatest photographer in the world. I am just the all-time best architectural photographer. And yeah, I'm going to charge accordingly. Out of 100 clients that I want to reach out to, a majority of them are still never going to hire you. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it's kind of the reality. Well, that'll do it for this video. Again, if you have a question that you'd like me to address in a future video, drop it in the comments and start it off with the 2 words business question, and I'll do my best to try to get to it in the future. If you got anything out of this video, feel free to drop me one of these, subscribe, hit the notification bell, all that typical cliche YouTube stuff. You can follow me on Instagram at Matthew A. Photo. Again, I appreciate you taking the time to watch, and we'll see you on the next one.